The moment Aria Veldon pressed confirm on her phone under the pale morning sun, she felt a strange mix of relief and shame wash through her chest, the kind that comes when survival forces a choice the heart never wanted to make. Outside her small apartment window, the city was already alive with honking cars, children running to school, and vendors setting up stalls. But inside her life felt paused, suspended on one decision she could not undo. She believed she was booking a single dad for one harmless night of company, a man who needed extra cash, nothing more. She had no idea that by sunset, the fragile walls she had built around her pain would begin to crack, revealing truths neither of them were ready to face. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of unexpected human connection, please take a moment now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Story. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that need them most. Aria was not reckless by nature. She was careful, almost painfully so, shaped by years of responsibility that came too early. After her mother's long illness ended with hospital bills that swallowed every saving, Aria had learned to count every coin, every hour, every breath. She worked mornings at a downtown cafe, where sunlight poured through wide glass windows, and afternoons at a small design studio that paid just enough to keep the electricity on. But when the landlord announced a sudden rent increase and her younger brother's school fees arrived the same week, something inside her quietly collapsed. Pride did not pay bills. Desperation did not wait for dignity. She told herself this was temporary, just one controlled decision in broad daylight. Nothing dark, nothing secretive. The profile she chose was simple, almost invisible. The name was Rowan Hale, listed as a widowed single father between jobs, offering companionship rather than romance, promising respect and boundaries. His photo showed a man with tired eyes, soft lines around his mouth, and a posture that suggested he carried weight unseen. There was something about that gentleness that made Aria feel safe enough to proceed. She imagined an awkward afternoon, polite conversation, maybe silence, and then it would be over. He never imagined that Rowan Hale was, in reality, Ronan Halecrest, the billionaire CEO of a global logistics empire, who had stripped his life down to essentials after grief hollowed him out. Ronan's morning had begun like most since his wife's passing, with sunlight spilling across a kitchen too quiet for a man with a child. His daughter Mira was at school, her backpack still hanging by the door where she had rushed out. Leaving behind the echo of laughter, he clung to like oxygen. The board expected him to return to the glass tower downtown, to the tailored suits and endless meetings. But Ronan had learned that wealth could not buy relief from loneliness. Disguising himself as an ordinary man had become his strange refuge, a way to feel human again, to exist without expectations or pity. Agreeing to meet Aria felt no different from the other small, anonymous acts he used to remind himself he was still alive. They met in a sunlit riverside district where cafes lined the walkways and office workers ate lunch on benches. Aria noticed first how ordinary Rowan seemed, how he blended into the daylight without effort. There was no predatory energy, no arrogance, just a man who walked slowly, as if listening to the world. She felt her shoulders loosen despite herself. They spent the afternoon wandering through an open-air market, surrounded by colors and voices, their presence among families and tourists making everything feel less heavy. They talked not in words that need repeating, but in shared pauses, in the way they watched people pass, in the mutual understanding that both were tired in ways sleep could not fix. Aria found herself opening parts of her life she had kept locked even from friends. She spoke of responsibility, of waking up every day already exhausted, of feeling invisible while the world rushed past. Ronan listened with an intensity that surprised her, not offering solutions, only attention, the rarest currency. In return, he shared fragments of fatherhood, the quiet terror of loving someone so completely it reshapes every decision. She did not know the scale of his resources, only the sincerity in his eyes, and that was enough. As the sun climbed higher, they sat in a park where office buildings cast long shadows over green grass. Children played nearby, laughter floating on the warm air, and Aria felt a tightness in her chest she could not name. For the first time in months, she was not calculating the cost of every moment. She was simply present. That frightened her more than the bills waiting at home. She reminded herself of the arrangement, of the boundaries, of the reason she was there. Yet the line between transaction and connection blurred with every shared smile. Ronan noticed the way Aria flinched when her phone buzzed, the way her gaze drifted toward the skyline as if measuring distance from dreams long deferred. He recognized that look because he wore its mirror daily. In her, he saw not weakness but endurance, a strength forged without applause. The urge to tell her the truth rose and fell within him, but he silenced it. He feared that revealing his wealth would poison the fragile honesty between them, turning something real into another performance. When afternoon leaned toward evening, the weight of reality returned. Aria knew their time was ending, that soon she would go back to her crowded apartment, and Rowan would fade into memory. The thought left her unexpectedly hollow. She had expected discomfort, maybe regret, but not this sense of loss for something that had never truly begun. She walked beside him along the river, sunlight dancing on the water, and wondered when life had become so complicated, when simple kindness started feeling like a luxury. The change came quietly. Ronan noticed her shoes, worn thin at the soles, the careful way she handled money at a street vendor, counting twice before handing it over. He realized that what she needed was not escape, but breathing room. His instinct as a businessman urged him to fix, to intervene, yet his heart warned him of the power imbalance his truth would introduce. He struggled with the idea all afternoon, torn between honesty and restraint. As they parted under a sky still bright with day, Aria thanked him with a sincerity that made Ronan's chest ache. There was no dramatic goodbye, only a shared look that acknowledged the weight of what had passed. He watched her walk away, feeling the familiar ache of loss, but this time layered with purpose. He returned home not to emptiness, but to resolve. Over the next days, daylight continued its steady rhythm, but Aria's life shifted in ways she did not immediately understand. Her cafe received a sudden contract for daily corporate catering, ensuring stable hours. Her design studio landed a client that valued her work, offering a raise that felt unreal. Even her landlord softened, extending her lease at the old rate without explanation. Aria suspected coincidence, yet something in her gut whispered otherwise. She thought of Rowan, of his attentive silence, of the way he had looked at her as if she mattered. Ronan watched from a distance, ensuring changes unfolded without traceable fingerprints. He justified it as kindness, not control, reminding himself that he was restoring balance, not buying affection. Yet each act tied him closer to her story, making anonymity harder to maintain. He found himself imagining introductions, daylight conversations unburdened by secrets, and the possibility of something honest. Fate, impatient with half-measures, intervened. Aria was invited to present her designs at a corporate event, an opportunity she could not refuse. She arrived early, nerves buzzing, sunlight streaming through towering windows. When Ronan stepped onto the stage as CEO, recognition hit her like a physical blow. The tired eyes, the gentle posture, now framed by authority and applause. The room spun as understanding settled. The man she thought she had booked out of desperation was standing before her as a symbol of everything she believed was out of reach. The revelation fractured her trust and then reshaped it. She felt foolish, exposed, yet also seen. Ronan met her gaze across the room, regret and hope tangled in his expression. He did not approach her then. He waited, respecting the space she needed to process betrayal layered with gratitude. Aria left the event into bright afternoon light, tears blurring the city, her emotions too complex for anger alone. Days passed before she allowed herself to reflect beyond hurt. She realized that despite the deception, Ronan had never treated her as lesser, never crossed boundaries, never exploited her vulnerability. His actions after their meeting spoke louder than the truth he withheld. In daylight clarity, she acknowledged that he, too, had been hiding, protecting wounds invisible to wealth. When they met again, it was in the same riverside district, sunlight warm and forgiving. There were no grand gestures, only honesty finally laid bare. Ronan spoke of grief, of the loneliness money amplified rather than cured, of his fear that revealing himself would erase the one genuine connection he had felt in years. Aria spoke of dignity, of survival, of the fine line between needing help and losing oneself. In that shared vulnerability, forgiveness found its way. Their story did not end with fairy tale ease. It unfolded slowly in daytime walks, in shared lunches with Mira, in building trust brick by brick. Ronan learned to step out from behind his disguises, and Aria learned to accept support without surrendering independence. Together, they redefined what rescue meant, not as salvation from above, but as meeting each other at eye level. If this story stirred something inside you, if it reminded you that kindness can appear in unexpected forms and daylight moments can change lives, please take a moment now to like, comment, and share this video. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who may need hope today. Before this story ends, I have one special request for you. Please comment below and share what part of Aria and Ronan's journey touched you the most, or what kindness means to you in your own life. As the sun continued to rise and set over the city, Aria realized that the bravest thing she had done was not the choice born of desperation, but the decision to believe that people could be more than their disguises. And Ronan discovered that true wealth was not counted in numbers, but in the courage to be seen. In the steady light of day, they found not perfection, but something far rarer, a second chance grounded in empathy, honesty, and the quiet, transformative power of human connection.